Oh, yeah!
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to The Fringe. Time for a little clip that I want to call, you know what really grinds my gears? Sorry, I had to do a little Family Guy reference there. No, we're not going to do a clip called What Grinds My Gears. I wanted to get an opinion piece from you guys because I seen over this last week on Twitter an argument stating up what does stick along the sides of what's happening in Canada and our economy right now, especially when it comes to the service industry. I kind of wanted to ask the opinion of you, the viewer, where you think Canada should stand moving forward, and if things are going too far, especially at a time when inflation is through the roof and when people can afford very little. I'm talking about the good old fashioned notion of tipping, and not only tipping, but when you look at the services attached to those things. Now, as somebody who lives very close to retail outlets, I certainly do not on a regular basis use services like DoorDash or Skip the Dishes because ultimately those were services that were put in place to essentially hook you and then start offering premium add-ons in order to get your food in a proper amount of time. Most restaurants, when I was in my early 20s, like pizza shops or things like that, would hire their own drivers to deliver, and usually you could get your pizza in 30 minutes or less. Nowadays, when it comes to those programs, you merely attach yourself to them and you decide, do I want to pay a little bit extra to get my food faster than other people? By the time you're all done, not to mention the markup on these delivery services like Skip the Dishes, you're paying about 3 times what it would cost to physically drive down and pick up your own product yourself rather than depend on a delivery driver. Now, delivery drivers aside, as you move forward and go into restaurants nowadays, even fast food restaurants like, say, a Subway or a Wendy's, you're now constantly asked, do you want to tip the staff? Now, if you're not aware of tipping and where it originated, it started in the early 1900s and it was made as I guess a premise that you were paying for faster service. If you went into a restaurant, you tipped the maitre d', they would usually seat you faster, they would give you faster service, and they would look after you for an extra couple of dollars. As tipping has evolved over the decades, it's now become something that isn't really worked for, but rather expected. I know anytime I've done a business meeting at a restaurant or gone with family members to any kind of event, we're told, well, because of your group size, there's going to be mandatory tipping. And often I see servers that don't really give a damn while they're doing their job or work for their tip because it's expected and it's a sense of entitlement. The reason I bring it up today is because, again, with the cost of doing anything in this city, even people who, again, don't get me wrong, there's always the option. I know people are probably already typing it in the comments. Hey, you don't have to go out and eat. You don't have to go out and do things. You can stay home, save some money. Absolutely. But for those who are, we'll say, soccer moms or people that once in a while you go to McChoke and Pukes, you throw the kids in the car and say, you know what, let's just make it easy tonight. We'll get a burger. We'll make them happy and we'll get to, the sporting events we got to get to or the after school activities quickly. To now be faced with higher prices at these places. And now the question of tipping being added to all of these businesses. I see it everywhere I go now. I want to show here this tip or this question that came out. And again, this was a hot topic on Twitter this week. This just blows my mind to think that people are sticking it to the man and not tipping is doing anything else besides harming somebody trying to pay their rent. LMFAO. You think somebody missing a bill is going to cause corporate America to suddenly pay servers? Now, the reply coming out that as a tipped worker, I can assure you, two things can be true at once. One, tipped wages are an exploitive way for bosses to pay us as little as they possibly can. But it's also people not tipping is not only going to hurt us and make no difference to our bosses. Very, very bold statement. And again, one that I often stand behind when it comes to the subject of tipping. But what you're seeing more and more, and what blows my mind again, is that when you go to somewhere like for example, again, Wendy's, and it asks, would you like to tip at the drive-through window? I don't understand why I'm tipping when Wendy's decides the wages of their minimum wage paid employees. I don't understand why it's my responsibility to ensure that somebody at a Subway store is paid extra on top of their minimum wage. Do I feel bad that they're making minimum wage? Yes, of course. Do I feel bad that those are the only jobs available to some of those people? Of course. But with the rising prices of product, when you look at inflation and when you look at what the average restaurant now charges for you to go there. You remember things like the $5 footlongs, and I keep using Subway as an example. Well, recently Subway had to bring back their $5 footlong menu simply because some of those sandwiches were now costing upwards of $15 a sandwich. People were getting furious and saying the whole purpose of these stores were fast, convenient, and cheap, affordable meals. Now you're paying people minimum wage and we're still getting garbage. Plus, we're being expected to tip on top of those actions. I know as I went into the United States over the summer, staying at a kids resort hotel, anytime you hit your wristband to make a transaction, would you like to tip on top of that? I'm paying a premium to be here. I shouldn't be asked if I want to compensate staff for merely getting us a slice of pizza that we order at a counter at a water park. It doesn't make sense when you've already factored in that part of the reason you're paying that premium to stay at that kids resort is the fact that they're hopefully compensating their employees properly. Businesses nowadays are taking those profits. They're giving out bonuses. We've seen it happen in every business. We've seen it happen in government. So again, it's more of a period piece to ask to you, the viewer, where you stand on this notion. Do you think that there should be new laws put in place in Canada that outlaw tipping in certain places? Should tipping be reserved for the restaurant and bar industry only? And when I say restaurant, I mean sitting down at a table with an actual server. Don't get me wrong. I think that if a server does their job well, and if they're interested in providing a good service to you, absolutely you should be tipping them. They work very hard for the money that they get paid. But I also feel that regulation needs to come into place for these employers that must pay an adequate wage to match up with the current rate of inflation that's going on and the cost of living in every major city and town in Canada. Let me know what you guys think down below. Do you notice this becoming more and more of an option? Do you pay for things like Skip the Dishes and Uber Eats, or do you merely get things yourself when you go out and ignore the tipping option? Let me know your comments down below. If it's your first time here, I hope this video has earned your subscription. Don't forget to tune in all week long as we have more political content and more politically charged content coming out on the channel. Again, I thought this was an interesting subject to maybe talk about and get out there. Let me know your thoughts down below if you want to see more videos like this where we talk about general stuff. But if you're interested, don't forget to join me again every Friday night for Friday Night Fringe here on the channel, where we do our weekly live streaming show. We talk about everything that's happened this week in Canadian politics, everything coming up in the week ahead, as well as some back and forth within our community. It's always great to see you guys out of those streams with my wife, Mrs. Fringe, and we always look forward to chatting with you guys outside of making these videos. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day and enjoyed this video. I'll catch you on the next one.